I really hope this works. No. I really hope this works. All right, this is working. So just a delay, so hold on. No. All right, nice. So this is actually working, it looks like. It took me longer than I hoped. But I'm going to just click through really quick so you can see I have a couple of different views. And the point of that, just so that I can talk to you here at the beginning, but then I'll be able to go into the drawing and you'll be able to see what's going on. And thankfully, it seems like it's working now, and there's some people watching, and everyone's commenting that things are working. So I'll check that here and there just to make sure that things continue to work. So I'm working with this camera that I'm using right now is just the camera that's on my Mac. So it's not the greatest quality. I'm actually using my iPhone 11 to film the drawing, and that's better quality. So I figured I'd use that for the drawing. And then I do have another camera set up that is in one of the views. Let's see. I'm trying to think where to start. But I'm going to start with a few things. So obviously we are in like a situation where people are kind of stuck at home and bored. So I thought this would be kind of a cool idea just to do some something for you where you could sit down and hopefully learn something about line work. And if this works well, you know, next time I could do maybe a drawing from start to finish and talk you through my process. I don't know exactly what I'll do next time, but this could, I'll definitely be better at it next time. This is the first time I've ever done like a live stream, and so that's why I had all these problems at the beginning. It seems like there's more people watching now, so that's good. I still want to kind of wait before I start the drawing because there's going to be people that are confused by the fact that I had to start a third one of these, and they might look at the other two and think that that's it. So hopefully they catch on. And if not, I will make this available as a video after, and so they'll be able to watch that. So cool. I want to show you guys some. Let's see. I got some new t-shirts, and I wanted to show you those before we get started because they're new designs. I have this one, which is like a skunk. This stuff's all on Etsy too, and the cool thing about it, these new shirts is they're printed on demand, so you can choose the color you want, and they ship out of the USA or the US, but they ship out of Europe too. So if you're not in the US and you're in Europe, the shipping prices aren't extremely high. And then there's another one here. This is the green one. There's tons of colors to choose from. And then I have sweatshirts too. Let's see. So there's a sweatshirt, and there's they're unisex t-shirts. They go all the way down to extra small, so they're basically will fit anybody. I just wanted to start there. What else did I want to talk about? I want to tell you guys too that as a professional artist, I think there's probably a lot of people that work freelance and sell art for their living, and maybe they're worried right now because the economy is, who knows what it's doing. Um, and I get that concern. And so there's probably a lot of you that are artists that make some part of your living from your art. And so it can be a scary time, but we'll just get through it the best we can. What I've done is I put, because I'm doing this as, it's like a new idea that I'm trying, but what I've done in the description, I don't think I did it on this video, but on the other one that I'm going to leave live, I put my PayPal information. And the reason I did that is because if you enjoy this content and you get something out of it, but also if you enjoy it and if you're in the position and you want to send $1 or a couple dollars just to show your appreciation, that would be great. That would help me, as this is my only income. But if you're not in the position to give any money right now, that's totally understandable. Just enjoy what I don't want to put pressure on people. That's not the reason I put the PayPal information up. That's just if you're in the position. So don't feel pressure. Let's see. We got good, more and more people watching. I'm assuming everything's still. I know the video's working, but I can't hear the audio because if I turn the audio up on my iPad, then the microphone will squeal. So I have, everyone told me to get a, what do you call them, Yeti microphone. And I find that this microphone is so sensitive that it picks up like the squeaking of my chair and literally everything. So I have the gain turned all the way down, but so I do apologize for that. If it's like you're getting squeaks and cat scratching at the door and stupid little sounds like that, we'll just deal with that, and maybe next time I'll have a better microphone. Let's see. I'm gonna switch to this view, and this view you can see me, but you can also see the paper and the drawing that I'm gonna be working on. I'm gonna try to line it up in there so you can see what I'm doing. It's weird because I can see like the studio on my Mac, which shows like what's going on live, but then my iPad is showing what's going on, what you guys are seeing, and it's like a 15-second lag. So I'm like keep waiting to make sure that things are working before I continue. What else did I want to talk about? I don't know. If I think about it while I'm drawing, I will tell you. So yeah, I'll just go. So I want to show you some drawings. And the reason I want to is because these drawings are good examples of what professional artists can do with good line work. And we'll try to incorporate some of that stuff in what we do today. If you don't, obviously you don't have to draw along with me. You can just watch this and then you can draw afterwards or whatever you want to do. It's up to you. But if you do want to draw along, actually, before I do the books, let me show you some tools that you might want to have if you're going to draw along. All right. So this is some of the tools I'm going to be using. As you can see, I've got, like I said, I wish the lighting was better. It's a cloudy day out, so I'm getting just this fake light, which isn't that great. I am using these 3 fountain pens. These 2 are Lamy Safari pens, Lamy 2000s. They're great pens. And this is a Pelican fountain pen. Fountain pens are great, but they are expensive. You can get some cheaper versions for, I don't know, like $15. These pens are in the hundreds. And so these are great pens for like if you're a professional artist or you're really going to take your art seriously. However, if you don't have a lot of extra money, I find that these Uniball pens, these are Uniball roller pens, and I will use these today as I'm drawing so you can kind of see the difference between the rollerball and the fountain pens. But these Uniball pens are, the reason they're so great for such a cheap pen is because they're very wet. And so they have, They can make like thicker marks very easily. They're easy to smudge if you want that effect. But they don't dry out easily. A lot of other types of pens can be dry, and they just don't work that well, I find. But some people love drawing with Bic pens and that type of pen. And if that's what you're using, that's fine. I'm just showing you what I'm using. And then I also have, so in those pens I'm going to be using, there's some different thicknesses, which is the most important thing today. And then I'm going to be using these thicker. This is kind of like almost like a marker. This Sharpie is a Sharpie, obviously. And then this is called a calligrapher. What is it even called? I don't even know. I use it all the time though, and it's just got a thicker line. And give me a second. Hold on. You guys are going to learn patience more than anything else today. And I appreciate your patience. I will say that again. So the reason that it's important that we're going to have all different thicknesses is because that's one of the biggest things with line work that you should know is that the different line weights and different thicknesses really can make your drawing so much more interesting than if you do the entire drawing with just one pen. It becomes, well, it's just not as interesting to look at. I mean, I don't know how else to word it. Let me show you. So, show you some examples and then we'll get to drawing. If I can find them. I did a drawing in here the other day and I wanted to show you because it's not done. And I'll get to it. Why am I not finding it? I should have put a marker in this book. This is like really weird. Oh, here we go. Okay. So this is a drawing I did the other day, and it's not finished. And as you see, it's done with the same pen. I did the whole drawing with the same pen. I can put it up closer to the camera. And it's, you know, you can see the detail in it. It's interesting, but it could be better. It could be a lot better. Once I go back into it and I start adding some thicker lines in there, you'll be able to see a bigger difference. And as I draw today, you'll see that when I start adding different line weights, it makes such a big difference. So let's show you some other drawings. This is Felix Scheinberger, who's a German illustrator. And I don't know why I'm nervous. I feel like I'm doing this. I know I'm doing this in front of like hundreds of people, maybe. Eventually that many people will watch it. But really, I'm just in my house on my own. For some reason, I feel nervous. Probably because, I'll tell you why I feel nervous. And this is something I wanted to talk about before, and now I just remembered. Okay. So, every video I ever have put out, of course, it's never been live. It's always been edited. And so, because of that, I'm able to take out my tics. I have Tourette's. And so I get I sniff a lot. I have eye tics, and sometimes they can be bad. And so that makes me nervous. And so being live, I'm kind of feel vulnerable. But having said that, when I'm drawing, I don't tic as much. And when I'm talking, I don't tic as much. It's usually just when I'm sitting there. When I'm watching TV, they can be really bad. And so if you do notice tics, if you notice that my eyes are twitching or I'm sniffing, especially sniffing, which is one of my bigger ones, that is just a tic. I'm not sick. I don't have a cold. I don't have coronavirus. So just ignore it. And so that's kind of one of the reasons I'm nervous. This is live, so I can't edit that stuff out if it happens. Anyway, let's get back to this. So this is Felix Scheinberger's book, and it's called Dare to Sketch. And as you can see, he's got all sorts of different line weights, but he also uses different techniques in different areas. He's got kind of some hatching going on here with some straight lines, other types of lines that make textures, the stippling in some of his pages, and then he just uses pen to build up so that rather than lines, you've got some actual black spot. Like this was probably done with just a smaller pen that he filled it in with. So with pen making line work, and we're just using black pen today, and so we're going to basically see what type of composition and what we can do with just black pen. We're not using color. We're not using any other form of ways to make textures other than just with what we can do with line work and with our pens and markers. And so this was a great book. If you don't have this book, or if you've never heard of Felix Scheinberger, definitely look into his work. I think you'll really appreciate it. And then what else did I have set aside? Okay, this is another good example. This is I can't even remember. I have the book right here. This is Ian Pollock, and it's out of his book Couples. As you see, same thing. It's just black and white. You've got different line weights. You've got things that jump out at you right away. Like this has a focal point, and it's all done with pen and ink. And so we're gonna see what we can do today with that. And then Alan Kober, I just took my bookmark out, which was stupid. But let's see what we can find in here. Okay. So he did this book, which is called The Forgotten Society, and it's all of drawings in nursing homes and mental institutions, and it's all black and white. It's all just with pens. But look at that. Look at all that shading. He's using cross-hatching and hatching and some stippling or stipling, however you want to say it. And this is great because this is so minimalistic, this whole spread. And then he's got all this hatching in the cane. And so when you open up to this page, you immediately see that cane. It's like the first thing that jumps out at you, right? And then you start looking at the other details. So this is a great example of how to use a focal point in your drawing. By having something that that you want to be the thing that people look at first. So he just made it the stippling and the hatching, make the cane darker so it's the first thing that you see. I should have made better notes, but I spent so much time this morning trying to figure out how to use this stupid program and how to stream live that I didn't have as much time to put into what I wanted to say. And so bear with me. So also, I'm going to be just drawing some faces this morning or this afternoon, whatever time it is there. And I hope you have some type of reference photo if you're going to be drawing along with me, if you have a face. If not, pull one up on your iPad or phone or whatever you're looking at. And if you don't have any reference photo you want to look at, you might just want to try this stuff out later. Totally fine. Or you could just copy what I'm doing and try to draw the exact same drawing that I'm doing just to kind of keep up with the things I'm talking about. And so what we're going to do is, and here's the other thing. I'm like all over the place. I'm kind of manic right now. I got to breathe. The reason I wanted to do line work to start with is because it is where I start my drawings. I always start with line work, almost always. There's occasionally I might have like a old photo that I really want to use in a specific drawing, and so I kind of start with that. But when I pick up a tool to start a piece, it's almost always a pen, and that's where I'm going to start. And so I wanted this first lesson to be line work because I think it's a good base. And once you can manage line work, then your work will start going in better directions, right? I made a silly video on TikTok, and I put it on Instagram about a week ago, and it was just saying, like, if you draw with a pencil, like, you're a baby. It was just stupid. It was not to be taken seriously. Some people did. I don't know why. But the point of the video was that working with pen, it actually forces you to be more confident because you can't erase. And so that's why I like working with pen. However, I work with pencil all the time. I use it for shading. I use it sometimes to do sketching. And so there's nothing wrong with working with pencil. That's not what the point of that video was. The point of the video was just to say pen is a great way to build your confidence up. And so I highly recommend doing that and sketching with it as often as you can. All right. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to start with my Lamy. And I'm going to start laying some lines down. And this pen actually came in the mail yesterday, so this is my first time using it. I have another Lamy here, and I marked it with blue tape because they look the exact same, but they're not. The one with blue tape is a little bit, the line weight is a little bit smaller on it. So the nib is smaller. I think it's a medium, whereas the nib on this pen it's slanted, but it's also a broad nib. And so it's got a little bit of a thicker line. So this is where I normally will start. And so I'll start generally with the eye. And that's just a preference. You can start anywhere when you're drawing a face. But in this lesson, we're going to draw a face the way I do. And what that means is we're not going to, you've probably seen people draw faces, and what do? They take a pencil and very lightly will sketch out like a circle, right? And then they'll put lines across the middle of the circle to show so they know where the eyes are supposed to go. And they kind of make these light marks, and they're just mapping out what the face and the proportions are supposed to be. And that's great. We're not drawing like that. Excuse me, I don't know why I have gas. We're not drawing like that today because that's not how I draw. First of all, my proportions are not always that great, but they're done like that on purpose. I have plenty of drawings that you could see from when I was in art school where it was very, very realistic, and I can draw that way. It's just not my preference. So I'm not worried right now when I'm laying this down about, I'm not worried about proportions. I'm worried about confidence in the line work, and that's basically the main thing I'm worried about. In fact, I will often draw blind contour drawings, which means I have a reference photo that I'm looking at, but I am not looking at the paper while I'm drawing. And that forces you to have to do very confident marks because it doesn't really matter what it looks like because you're not even looking at it anyway. And the finished result of that is always much more interesting than if you were looking at the page because you've got all these really confident marks that when they're compiled together, they make up you can tell it's a face, but it's not always, it's not almost never looks like the person you were trying to draw. But what makes the drawing so interesting is the fact that everything is done in such a confident manner. And so you've got these confidently drawn faces that are basically a mess. I'm just taking a second before I'm going to start drawing in 2 seconds, but I just want to make sure everyone is saying that the audio and everything is working still. Yeah, it looks like nobody's saying anything about it, so we're going to continue. All right, we're going to start with the eye. Like I said, this is where I like to start. You can literally start anywhere. And we're just kind of rough out the shape of an eye. And so this is kind of strange for me because I don't ever draw without any music or podcast or something on. And so, and right away, I'm going to a different pen to to do some thinner lines, right? And so we're doing the eyebrow, so the line in here may be a little bit thinner, which is fine. And then go back in with the thicker pen, and we're gonna do, oh, this pen is weird because the other one I have is not like the nib's not slanted, so I'm not used to that. But it's fine. I'll get used to it pretty quick. I'm gonna have to be forced to, since this is live, right? So anyway, like I was saying, I never draw without music or things like that. So this is going to be a little bit strange, and I definitely never draw while talking about what I'm doing, right? So bear with me and we will get through this. And like I said, you're probably going to learn more patience than anything as we go. And we'll see what happens. Another thing that's interesting about this is the fact that I would say like half of the drawings I do stink, which is like any artist will tell you that that's just what happens. At least half your drawings are going to end up terrible. And that's fine. But drawing live, if this stinks, well, you're all going to see it. And you're going to say, oh, see, he stinks too. Which is fine. I don't care. Like, I don't expect people to think that every one of my drawings comes out the way I want it to, because it doesn't. And so right here we're doing, this part is kind of the corner where the nose comes in and would come in and meet the eyebrow, and so I put a little bit of stippling in there just to kind of add some like a shadow effect, kind of. And as you'll see, like I got the pen that I was using, it kind of leaked a little bit right here. Like, so what? I don't care. Some people might be like, oh, my pen leaked, scrap this, start over. Not me. You know why? Because if by the end of this picture, that one part of the picture where it leaked is like the only thing that I don't like, but sometimes I end up liking it. But if it's something I don't like, well, maybe I can collage over it with a small little piece of paper or find another. That's what's cool about working with pen. Like, you make, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, you find new ways. You have to discover new ways to fix mistakes other than an eraser, right? It's always an eraser when you're working with pencil, and it's almost like, I don't know, it gives you like an out that you shouldn't have when you're doing art. You don't need extra outs. I don't know if that makes sense. Half of this might not make any sense because I feel like I'm kind of rambling. So it's really hard to like describe what you're doing while you're drawing. I've never tried to do it before, and so it's kind of like, well, it's just challenging. That's all. Kind of roughing in the shape of, where the eye is. And then I'll do, right, these lines that come from the corner of your nose, which is like, I always try to make these darker because, well, they always are a little bit darker in real life. And I'll go in and add more into those later. Let's see. Just adding a little bit of shape to the face. Oh, here's another idea. So we're using a lot of straight lines, and we're going to go into this after and put some thicker lines. But who says you can't do other types of lines too, right? So we've got some facial contours over here. Like, what if I used a dotted line to make that up? right? And now you got these very different types of lines in the drawing, which is like making it more interesting. So the more types of lines you're using and the more line weights you're going to be using, the more interesting your drawing becomes, right? And so we'll give him some hair over here. And, I got a spot here where there's hair, a little bit more hair. I don't know. I'm just trying to think as we go. And I'm not going to show you the reference photo I'm using, and there's a reason for that, because it doesn't matter if it looks like the reference photo, and it won't, because that's not the type of drawing we're doing. We didn't plan this out with a pencil, and if I was really trying to make it look exactly like the reference, which I do when I'm doing like portrait work. Whoops, I'm drawing way off. I'm sorry. I gotta make sure I'm on. Should I back the camera up a little bit so you can see the whole drawing? That doesn't really matter. We'll zoom out after. I just want to make sure that I'm drawing on camera, because this is like the whole point of this. So I'm trying not, I was like, I don't know, doing a little bit of shading as I go, but I'm not going to do that right. I'm going to try to do the line work first, and then we'll go back in and do some shading after. How about that? I do like this new pen. I highly recommend these Lamy 2000s. But like I said, they are about $150 pens, and so if I was just like a hobby artist, I may not spend that money on a pen. But if you're a professional artist and you want to splurge, when you get some extra money, I recommend these pens a lot. Does anybody have like questions about anything I'm doing? And when I'm done with these teeth, I'll look at the chat, and that way I know kind of what you want me to talk about while I'm drawing. How about that? I actually hope that some of you copy the drawing I'm doing rather than use your own reference, because then I'll get to see them after, and that will be cool. Oops. See, I leaned on the line I did. I smudged it a little, like, oops, it's not a big deal. In fact, sometimes I smudge things on purpose, like that. Oh yeah, I said after I did the teeth I would look at the chat real quick, which is what I'm going to do. No questions. Honestly. No questions. Well, how would we do hair on them? Hair is like this well, it depends on the reference photo you're using what the hair looks like. This guy that I'm using is kind of he's actually bald, and I'm just adding hair just for effect. And hair can be done in so many different ways. Line work, you can build up with lines to do hair. You can kind of outline the hair and then just use lines, a few wispy lines to kind of indicate like the direction of the hair, the way the hair flows. There's so many different techniques, right? And so it's really up to what you want to do. Let's see. Move this up a little. We'll get into some thicker lines in a second. I just want to finish this up really quick with I don't know, like a collared shirt, I guess. There we go. Kind of a mess, right? So now I'm gonna, well, you know what I'll do before I get my other pen out? I'm gonna fill in this space here with in the black. So we want, I don't know, find a spot on your drawing if you're not copying what I'm doing and you're doing your own face. Is there an open mouth and you can fill in some black in the mouth and give your drawing like a focal point? Because that's what this is doing right now. I'm filling in the mouth around the teeth with black. And now what happens is when you look at the drawing, the first thing you notice is the mouth, right? That's the focal point because it's a lot of black in that area. And we're going to add some, and then maybe you kind of see like this black up here, and that may be the second focal point, which is good. You want to have more than one. You don't want to have like one focal point and then nothing else of interest on the page, because you want the viewer's eye to move around the page. That's the ultimate goal. And see this up here, the paper, as you can see, it's torn. That's like a technique that sometimes I use this technique. You can see the paper underneath is a mess, right? Like, use a torn piece of paper. Use a paper that's already messy, and you'll notice you won't be so like anxious about drawing on it. Like, oh, I don't want to ruin this pristine piece of paper, because it's already ruined. And the only thing you can do is make it better, really. How do you choose which features to emphasize? That's a great question. It's kind of like a personal preference thing, right? And so, what do you, and sometimes it's kind of like happens on accident, where you'll be drawing and your pen will leak, and now you have like a big black spot in somewhere you didn't want. Well, you might have to use that spot as like one of the focal points, because you've got this big black splotch that you're going to have to deal with if you don't cover it. So I'm going to use some hatching and some cross hatching to do some shading. And we're going to do some in the ear here, right? And so some nice hatching, and then I'll use some cross hatching. And then we'll go over some of those parts here to make it a little darker. And then up in here, do maybe some more hatching. And you can see I'm using my thinnest pen right now. It's just a Uniball roller pen, and it's nice and thin, but it's a good way to hatch. You can use thicker pens to hatch, but sometimes they can become a mess when you do. So you just want to maybe practice hatching with different pens and see which one feels right for you. I'm going to probably do, well, I already did some hatching up here, so I'll probably add to it a little bit in the side of the nose. And then I'll do some more on the other ear here. And for those of you who joined late, I'm going to repeat this, and only because, well, as I explained before, we're in a time right now where the economy is kind of bad, artists may be struggling too, and so I'm doing this as a way to share some knowledge with you, but also as a way to maybe make a little money to help myself out during this time. And so I do have a PayPal, which I have put in the description of the last video I put up, which you can look at. I'll try to put it in the description of this video when I edit it to put it up live. But the reason I put it up there, I'll say this again, it's there because if you found value in this video and you're in the position where you can give and give $1 or $2 or whatever to thank me for the value that you found, then great, do that. But if you're not in the position, then don't do it and just enjoy this for free. It's not there to put pressure on people. That's definitely not why I put it in there. So here we're going to put some hatching underneath the nose, because, well, light usually comes from above, and guess what? That means that underneath the nose will be darker. And so you want to kind of figure out to where the light is coming from, right? So in this case, the light, I'm going to have the light coming from above like this, but above to the left a little bit. But you can just have it coming straight from above. You can even have it coming from below. It's up to you, but you just have to know that so that when you do hatching and shading, it makes sense, right? Because if the light's coming from below and then you put a bunch of hatching underneath the nose, that doesn't make any sense. There wouldn't be a shadow there if there was light coming from underneath, right? Depending on the angle of the light. But the point is, you have to give that some thought before you start hatching, and I probably should have said that because some of you are probably using different reference photos, but just follow the photo you're using if you're doing that. Where are the shadows? And that'll tell you where to put some hatching. And let's see, I'm going to use a lot more hatching around this area because I always like to emphasize this part of the face. It's like, well, it's almost always dark here. And as you can see, this is, well, it's messy. It's not necessarily that great yet. And it might not be that great because, as I said before, not all of my drawings come out great. So now I'm going to use a pen or a marker or whatever you even would call this that makes a little bit of thicker lines. And I'm going to go in and find some spots where I want to make thicker lines. And this is totally up to you as the artist. Where do you want to make thicker lines? And again, the reason we're doing this is because having the same line weight everywhere makes the drawing less visually appealing. It makes the drawing look less interesting. And so, can you thicken some of the lines in some area? Can you add extra hatching in some of the areas? We're going to do some hatching down here in the chin, right? Because maybe he's got a little cleft, and we're going to put some extra hatching in the neck. There's all different types of hatching too that people use. Sometimes people use straight lines like I'm using. Some people use curved hatching. I've seen like circular hatching, which is pretty cool. And so that's like all experiment. Do anything you want like that is experimental. You'll find it to be, well, you'll never know what will happen. Let's put it that way. And then I'm going to put, this pen here is a Uniball. It's also very wet, so it's easy to smudge. And I like to do that too. So, right? I got a spot there now that's kind of got, well, more of a smudge. But some people don't like to smudge their drawings because they want them to be pristine. And I will say, if you're going to use some smudging in your work, do it in more than one spot maybe, because if it's just in one spot, then maybe people will think it's a mistake. You want people to at least think what you're doing is intentional, right? Even if it's not. Do some hatching up in the eye, right above the eye. Let's see, 91 people watching, and it kind of goes up and down, which means some people stop watching, some people joining, maybe some are bored. If so, I apologize, but this is the art lesson, sometimes people are bored of art, I guess. I do want to say the Starbucks in my town is only drive-through open right now, and they're being extra cautious. They're all wearing gloves. They have a person collecting money, and then a separate person making the drinks, and then a separate person giving the drinks to people, and they're wearing, like I said, all three of them are wearing gloves, and and then when I get home, I still take the cup and my phone and everything I touched while I was out, and I disinfect them. So I am isolating socially like everyone else is, just because you see a Starbucks cup. I mean, that's the only place I went today, and that's the only place I'm going. And I did the drive-through. Um, and so I actually did hear, I heard there's a rumor going around that you can make your own coffee at home. Now, I don't know if that's true. I think it might be a myth, and so I'm gonna wait till Mythbusters does like a episode, and if they debunk that myth, then great. And if they prove that it is true, then maybe I'll try it and make my own coffee at home. How do you reference photos for your drawings? Okay, that's a good question. So I will sometimes photograph my own reference. Sometimes I'll just Google image search things. Here's the thing. When you are using Google image search for reference photos, keep in mind, if you're doing a drawing of, let's see, well, Anthony Bourdain, for instance. If you Google image search Anthony Bourdain and you pick one of the first images that you come across, first of all, there's a photographer that took that, and so they have copyright on it. Second of all, most other artists that drew him probably picked from that same pool, and so you're using a reference photo that has been used to death. And so what I like to do personally when I'm using reference photos for famous people is actually use 2 or 3 reference photos for them. And maybe I like the way the eyes are in this one photo, and then the way the rest of the face is in a different photo. And then by combining them like that, you're not really violating copyright, and you're creating something that's more unique to yourself. And so reference photo, you don't have to use photos, obviously. You can just draw from your mind. You can draw from life. I do all of those things. I just wanted to use reference photo for this particular drawing session because I know that most people do like to have, they do like to have a reference. Most people either, or maybe they like to draw from their mind, but I think most people want to have like some way of knowing what they're drawing, I guess. All right, what am I going to do now? So you can see right now we're at a stage where, we get different line weights, we get some hatching going on. We've got some areas where there's some blotches of black, and we've got some different types of lines, right? So we got a lot of solid line, we've got a dotted line here. Now we're going to use some, I guess it's stippling in this case, but we're going to do like some stubble, right? And so I don't know if this is considered stippling, right? Because you're just doing the little hairs that make up the stubble. And a lot of times in stippling, you're making like a shadow. And when I do this, I kind of make sure that I do it pretty fast in a messier way. And then I also will make sure that I will use more than one pen, right? So I'm coming in now with my other pen because this one is a little bit thicker, and so now I get different size stippling, and you want to try to, in this case, I'm going to maybe put some areas where they're tighter and some where they're a little bit further apart and create more visual interest. I'm going to do, so I'm trying to think, I just thought of something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my next tutorial, I think, on how to incorporate digital tools into your practice, because I'm at the point of this drawing almost where the digital tool might come in, depending on where I'm headed with this. And so maybe it would be cool to continue this drawing and then show you what I do there with the digital tool. But maybe not. Maybe I'll use a totally different drawing altogether. Right, so I'm not... keep going. Generally too, like, alright, this isn't line work, so I shouldn't be doing it right. But I'll use like some charcoal and some vine and just kind of, especially for like stubble areas, I'll just kind of let it... I'll get a few more pieces usually. See what happens. Just to kind of... Oops, wrong one. Roll it around, make a mess. Maybe do it up here too. I know that's not line work, but... So here we go. We got a drawing that is only black and white, and there's a decent amount of visual interest going on, right? We've got a focal point, we've got secondary focal points, we've got different line weights, and you can continue that too. You know, you can use an even thicker pen and go in there and really add some thick lines and spots, right? And then underneath, oh yeah, so underneath the collar, what do we have? We're gonna have more shadow, right? Because underneath your collar, the light source can't get there, obviously. So put a little bit of, oops, maybe that's not so great. See, I'm not crazy great. I'm not super happy with how that came out, but that's fine. This may be a drawing that I would not have posted on social media, and because you were supportive enough to come and watch my live stream, you get to see it. Let's see. What I'm going to do now is show you something that people had asked that is not associated with line work, but it's something that people ask me a lot. And they say, like, how do you choose you use a lot of old photographs in your work, and how do you decide what to use? Where do you get them from? And that's not really enough to do a whole live stream on. And so I think I'll add that to the end here, and I'll show you guys how I would pick a photograph to maybe put on this piece. And I'll talk a little bit about where I get photographs from. So I have boxes, like old cigar boxes filled with old photographs. And let's see, I got them from all sorts of places. I get them from flea markets. I get them from people that send them. I had just got a package the other day from a follower named Kyle Meadows, and he's a musician. He sent me actually a box with CDs and a piece of art he did and a t-shirt, and I didn't pay for it. He just sent it as a gift. It was so nice, and so I did send him some stuff in return. But the point is, I get old photographs from followers. I get them from flea markets. I get them from friends. So old photographs are not that hard to find. If you put feelers out in the world that you're interested in them, usually your friends or people you'll know will come across them and give them to you. So, all right, I get to the point where I start picking out photographs and kind of, I just put them up against the drawing I'm doing, right? And I'm like thinking, does this work? Does this work? I don't know. I like this photograph a lot, right? I think this one might work, right? It's a couple of nurses. I don't want it to cover his ear, so I will tear it. And then maybe I'll put it there. Or on the other side. See, would it look better on the other side? Maybe. Maybe I'll tear it again. Once you tear it, you can't untear it though. So that you want to keep that in mind. So maybe I'll want to put the old photograph there. And then, okay, so now I'm at the point where I'm just going to keep going, right? Because why not? People are still watching. What would I do from here with a drawing? Maybe I would start adding in some text and writing. And how do I think about what I want to write on a picture? Well, it just depends. Does the picture have meaning, or is it a photograph of a celebrity that maybe has a quote that they've said that would make interesting text to fit in? Sometimes it's just meaningless. It's like what I'm thinking of. And sometimes, look, I'm just writing literally what I'm saying. And guess what? I usually write in a way that you can't even read it. So people say, what does this drawing say? I can see some text in the background, but I can't read it. And then I say, I have no idea, I don't remember what I wrote. Maybe I want to come in with do some text going up the picture. I just want to make sure that this is guess what? I literally don't care what it says because this is just like, well, it's a live stream sketch. It doesn't really matter, and I messed up there, so I'll cross that out. Right, so we've got, what do we got going on? We've got some line work now. We've got text. We've got line going into the background. We've got a photograph and a tear, and I would call this a pretty complete sketch. I would add color sometimes in that's what I'm going to do next time. All right, I just decided. Next stream, I'm going to tell you how I would go from here, how I would figure out if what colors I want to add, where I want to add it, and I also want to figure out how I use digital tools from this step forward, because I do use them. And so we'll do that. And then next time, and then what I'll do is maybe I'll give this drawing, this live stream drawing away to somebody that watched. So maybe to enter, like, comment, or yeah, just make a comment, I guess. And then after I do the second live stream where I finish the drawing and we do color and digital stuff, I'll give it away. I'm trying to think. So again, I'm sorry that you were here to witness my first live stream, because you had to bear with me as I learned how to do it and get comfortable with it. Next time, I hope that it will be much better and that I'll be smoother and less nervous, and we won't start 10 or 15 minutes late. And what else do I want to say? Again, just stay safe, everyone. Help out local small businesses if you can, because those are the people that are hit hardest by a bad economy. And I guess that's it. Thanks for joining me. I wish this was maybe longer. Maybe I'll do another longer one next time. But have a great day.